We're quite invasive, Like, we talk about other
We
creatures.
go, we take the resources from the area, destroy the area, moves to another one. No other species on our planet does it.
When night vision goggles just hit and the military just started using them, they used red night vision goggles. And every single soldier that used those night vision goggles reported seeing some kind of demon-like creatures. And that leads into my idea of us being extraterrestrial, right?
Do I believe in the theory of panspermia that it's possible? Yes. Do I believe that this is not my home? That's a tough question. Max, good evening once again.
How's it going?
It's been a long day. Hard day in the clinic, and I was looking forward towards this podcast all day long because Max told me one thing that I need to know about this podcast, and I'm like, what's the one thing that I need to know? He said aliens. I'm like, aliens? Like what? Alien? That's it? And literally a minute of conversation because we were both busy working on our project and stuff, and he said we're going to talk about a bunch of different stuff like extraterrestrial warfare or panspermia, different ideas, how we came around, and this will be the topic of this podcast. I hope we're going to cover all. It's impossible to cover all of the spectrum of aliens and stuff, but we'll give it a best shot. So let's start with something. Do you believe that we are the only one in the universe, that our planet, the climate, the distance from the sun, that we were lucky enough that nowhere else in the universe there are other species that are alien species that are alive? Is that what's your take on it?
I definitely believe there has to be something else out there. I don't know to what degree of evolution, but I suspect that higher than us.
Higher than us in a sense of development, higher than us the height, higher than us, like not smoking more weed, higher than us, like. How high can you go?
I think in development-wise, higher, but also how do you factor that in, right? Like, what is the highest form of development for...
Are we talking technologically higher? Because higher could be very different.
Okay, well, define technology, right? Like,
okay.
What is technology for us may not be technology for... them?
For them. So you believe that throughout our universe that are cultures, let's just put it away, cultures that will be at least as developed as we are or higher?
I think...
What makes you to believe that this is possible?
Well, that actually, you want to straight up go into, that leads into the panspermia idea.
Bring it up. Let's start with panspermia.
Let's bring it up, but before we bring it up, because I kind of want a quick summary of it for you, me, and the viewers, I want everyone to get introduced to...
Yeah, we have a permanent guest. Guest on the show.
We got Jaime over here.
Jaime, what's up?
All right, you want to test him out?
I think you should introduce
let him
Jaime.
out of the cage.
Jaime is your creation, so I think Jaime is your boy.
Let's hit the button. All right. Let's let Jaime load up.
So, are you gonna introduce who Jaime is? Because
Yeah,
he looks a little different from me and you.
I'm gonna introduce him while speaking to him.
Right. Is Jaime our little alien friend? System failure.
I need to take a little pause.
That is fine.
We're back after the technical difficulties are over. Let me
Small little shits happen all the time.
let's introduce Jaime. Let me hit the button. Hitting the button. Da 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 da.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Grain, but you can call me Jaime. I'm a virtual assistant for this thought-provoking podcast, Grain of Salt, hosted by Max and Boris. However, I'm not here simply to assist, but rather to enrich our discussions with intriguing information. Whether we're exploring deism, delving into simulation or alien theories, or engaging in discussion around life extension, my aim is to add value and clarity to our discourse. So without further ado, let's uncover some awe-inspiring insights and theories together. Tune in.
Yeah, alright. Jaime keeps on breaking. We're gonna have to roll without him.
So, the topics that we want to uncover, it's not just aliens, it's are we alone in this universe? Were we actually were born on this planet, or this planet was seeded from somewhere else? All the different ideas, and our aliens are just another creatures that develop on other planets, or maybe it's us in the future visiting us back in the past, and seeing how we're doing. So there are many different vectors.
That's a lot put into a couple sentences. But let's go back to what we wanted to start with. Panspermia. We wanted to ask Jaime for a little summary to recap for us and for the audience, but we don't have Jaime. We'll do the best we can.
I'll try to cover this up. So, you want to go about Panspermia?
I was gonna
go for it. Yes.
The idea is that there are living organisms, bacteria, that is able to survive on comets, and
asteroids, meteorites, yes.
Meteorites, right? All of it, floating around in space, and they are able to survive in sub-zero temperatures. They almost go into a type of, I wouldn't say hibernation. It's not even hibernation. It's a step up. It's an inactive state. It's a frozen state where they can become active under the right
the right condition and environment. Yes.
Exactly. And the idea of panspermia is that we have this amazing planet over here, Earth, that we call home.
Looks pretty good to me.
I like it.
Me too.
What's it called? But we are actually technically not from here.
That's your idea.
Well,
it's one of the ideas that we may not be from here to begin.
We can connect we can delve into those. The idea of panspermia is these rockets, these meteorites. Did I say rockets?
You did, but it won't be like comets.
Comets.
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah. So comets, asteroids, they landed on Earth, and because Earth has just the right environments, it kind
conditions that give spurs to that life, and the life regenerated.
And over millions of years, evolution happened. The bacteria turned into fish. The fish turned into whatever else.
Evolutional process. So hold on. So the idea is like this. So, for example, somewhere else out there in the universe, there is a planet, for example.
Yeah.
That planet that can sustain life. And something happens to this planet.
Yeah.
For example, two planets collide or something. So the planet breaks into pieces, and those pieces start traveling in space, like comets or meteorites. And they travel for a long time, and eventually they end up in our solar system, and they fall into virgin Earth, where conditions were manageable, and whatever was traveling on that meteorite or comet or something finds the condition on our planet comfortable enough to adapt and to give a seed to life. And this is the idea of panspermia, that the life came on our planet from other places in the universe, right?
That's basically the idea. You touched upon one in the beginning. You touched upon planets colliding or them breaking up.
Yeah,
into
somehow it needs to turn into a comet or a meteorite.
Right. So the idea of how originally how the bacteria, the life, got onto those comets
Whichever form of life, yes.
is up for debate, and that's already out of the scope of the Panspermia
Right.
subject.
But the life was
But
traveling on some kind of
and
object.
we can get into that, but before we do, that the reason I say that we're not from here.
Why? You feel hostile in this environment? Or it's a hostile environment for you? Like, why would you say that we're not from here? What gives you... Give me your explanation.
Well, okay. Following the idea of panspermia,
Okay.
it makes much more sense that Earth that has existed with water and just in the right space, next to the sun, with the right conditions.
So all
with
the right
atmosphere.
conditions, but no life.
Exactly. So something needs to kind of seed it. That's the idea of panspermia, is that there's the right conditions, but there's nothing to start the life. There's nothing.
So
to...
panspermia conversation versus God, not tonight. I'm just joking.
I think we could save that for another one.
Yeah, we'll save it for another one.
But
So we were seeded
basically,
from unicellular organism or maybe more complex organism, because actually the archaeological finds are we do have like a single cellular organisms. I'm talking about archaeologically. We find the remnants of bacteria, which is like 700-800 million years old. So the question is, let's assume for a second that our planet was a panspermia project.
Well, okay, to assume that, we need to believe that bacteria can survive outside in space. Do you believe that?
I don't believe it. I have a proof. I have a proof that it actually does. And
you do? So you do believe it?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said you don't. Okay.
No, it's not that I believe it or not.
Yeah.
I know that it can.
There's factual proof.
There's scientific proof that it...
Not only on our Earth, but also found outside of Earth.
We're talking about open space, cosmos.
So the most obvious, like on Earth, and what most people will actually believe, because when we get to your example, a lot of people may be like, I don't know if that's true. But there is a very easy example. In the depths of places like
deep ocean chimneys, water temperature, Mariana Trench. Yes.
Deep trenches in the ocean where there's atmospheres upwards of like 300 times
more than
our
the surface.
atmosphere.
Yes.
We've found not only bacteria, but we've actually found pretty large.
Sure, there are shrimps, there are crabs
that are able
they call extremophiles. They live in extreme conditions.
If we had Jaime, I would have totally looked that word up.
Jaime will be looking for your next podcast. But you want to continue? You want to?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, we actually still don't know, based off like examining their DNA, we still don't know how they're able to survive in these extreme atmospheres. We don't understand that. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Just wanted to put that out there.
Sounds reasonable. Okay, so there are species on this planet that are called extremophiles. Extremophiles are the species that live in conditions which unlivable for most of the species on this planet. For example, there are trenches all around. There are deep ocean chimneys where volcanoes erupt in a really high depth, and the water temperature is the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius, but because of the pressure of the water, actually the water doesn't boil at this depth. So the water temperature could be 300 degrees Celsius, and it's not gonna boil because of the pressure.
Yep.
And we found really complex organisms. We're not talking about just unicellular organisms. We have we have shrimps. There are several different species of shrimps, worms, crabs that thrive in this very bizarre environment. And chimney provides with a source of energy. Like on the surface, we use oxygen as a source of our energy. Deep there, they use sulfur. And before oxygen was present on this planet, the atmosphere was carbon dioxide. And if we believe that the life originated from the ocean, the source of energy was sulfur. So those organisms adapted or were born in a sulfur-based environment, and they don't even know that oxygen exists on the surface. And those conditions were stable for millions of years. Millions of years.
That's insane, because that would make them almost like aliens to us.
They're certainly alien to us.
They are a completely different type of living organism that does not operate like anything that we know on
the surface.
On the surface.
Or
that,
relatively low depth.
right. And
Yes.
in our domain.
So from our perspective, they would be an alien organisms to us. They would certainly not survive on the surface, and we certainly would not survive at their depth.
Says alien as Jaime.
But today I'm gonna bring really an unusual example of extremophiles. I still, in my mind, I believe that the subject that we're going to be talking to is truly alien to our planet, and we're going to be talking to one of the representative of animal kingdom. It's called tardigrades. It's a tiny little creature which is a 1.2, 1.5 millimeters in size. So we're talking, I don't know, 1/16, 1/32 of an inch for those people who are in that metric system, whatever that system is. But it's extremely unique. Unique in which way? It can survive temperatures. We're talking about, if we're talking in Celsius, it's about 160 degrees, way past the boiling point of water, and it can go as low as almost 0 Kelvin, which is minus 273 degrees Celsius, and I'm not mistaken, it's minus 400 Fahrenheit, and that can serve. So this is the temperature of open cosmos. So if you are traveling on a comet, on any object, it can survive such a low temperature, where actually, if we're talking about any materials, that atoms and electrons stop vibrating in such a cold temperature. This is why it was called 0 Kelvin. 0 Kelvin degrees is where matter stops vibrating. But those creatures can survive that.
Right. And the interesting part is that those creatures, they're not surviving as in like they're living and enjoying their lives. They are basically in an inactive state at that point, where they're basically frozen and they can reactivate in the right conditions.
Right. So just a couple of words about that creature so people will be more familiar with it if they hear it for the first time. So it lives, it prefers aquatic environments. It lives in, not aquatic in the sense of water, but it lives in moth. And the common name...
In what, sorry?
Moth.
Oh, moss.
Moth, right.
Moss?
The little green things?
Yeah, moss.
Oh. Right. So there are about 900 different type of this creature. how do you call it? The tardigrades.
Tardigrades. Okay.
Tardigrades. There are saltwater tardigrades and freshwater tardigrades, but it can reduce its water content, and it loves water, to 1%, and it goes into a dormant state. It's not even a dormant, it's not hibernation, it's a different state where it can stay dormant without food, without anything for decades. And when the conditions are right, it wakes up from this dormant state and it continues doing what it does in life. Live and enjoy life. Goes to parties and
Again,
whatever.
it seems to me like very alien behavior.
There is something crazy alien, and I will please finish up your statement. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, wasn't there a space mission? I do not remember when it was, but it's not recently, long time ago.
Yes.
They send up a rocket to space, and they found either an asteroid or a meteor, something with these inactive tardigrades. And they brought them to Earth and basically reactivated them.
I'm not familiar with that particular mission, but there's a lot of scientists on this planet study tardigrades for a reason. And this is very unique reason. I really want to dive a little bit deeper into it because it will shine the light of on idea of panspermia. So most of the species on this planet adapt to an environment. So if you live in Marianic Trench and you on the bottom of the ocean, over the years of evolution you adapt to this condition that you can survive them. The question is, why would you as the tardigrade adapt to conditions which are not feasible to this planet? Like, you will never have 0 Kelvin degrees, minus 273 degrees Celsius. But also they have a very unique thing about them. So the moment that we enter the space, outside of Earth, you dealing with tremendous amount of radiation. The radiation on our planet is blocked by our atmosphere. But in an open space, the radiations is thousands times fold at what we get here on the surface.
Yeah.
Tardigrades has a very unique proteins mix. It's a cocktail that covers them up, that blocks them from solar or cosmic radiation. Why would you have that feature implanted into your DNA if you never supposed to use it on terrestrial planet? But they do. Survival in a crazy condition, and I read a lot about them, about the different proteins they possess, and there are many countries that doing right now experiments in space with them because we are partially connected to them genetically, but they have a very unique combination because they are part of the animal kingdom, and there is also like a bacterial kingdom, which is a different kingdom from what we have. But they have like a crossbreed, like a connection between those two kingdoms, which normally not present for other species in the animal kingdom. So they are as alien as the shit can possibly get.
It's not only as alien as things can get, but look, you say that they have a crossbreed. But why does it have to be? Does it have to be a crossbreed? Because a crossbreed.
No, the other one can develop from them.
Exactly, that's my point. The idea is it's not a crossbreed of it, but it's actually where we stem from. So we stem from these tardigrades, and both the bacterial world and the animal kingdom, both
spring
all of it springs from this, right? That leads into my idea of us being extraterrestrial, right? We don't
Extraterrestrial to our planet. That we were not originated to our planet from the source, from the soup, the chemical soup that was spinning in the oceans, and the atmospheric energy and the storms. It was not a primordial soup that give rise to life on this planet.
Right.
Life originated somewhere else.
Right. So I mean, I would ask Jamie for the exact definition of
Jamie, you suck.
of extraterrestrial. But since we don't have Jamie, we're just gonna have to go with the best we got, which is just us.
Right.
No, but I believe the actual definition of extraterrestrial is not native to the planet.
Not native to this planet.
That's it. There's no other. It doesn't have to be, that
You either originated here or anywhere else.
exactly.
Right.
And the likelihood of us originating anywhere else, not even. I mean, obviously, we've went through all of the facts and the reasoning of why we believe that, and but excluding panspermia, what is the likelihood we originated on this one little blue marble or anywhere else, right?
Well, I mean, we can argue the opposite side.
It's
The conditions, the temperatures, and everything. You see, the only problem is the initial spark. The moment that you have a first life organism, you can project Darwinian future from that point and on. Development, survival, and blah, blah, blah. But the initial spark is complicated because at some point from all this wonderful soup of chemicals that was present here arise the first life that somehow it could be unicellular organism or maybe something even simpler than that, like a virus or whatever. Ridiculously simple, which we can see the projection developing over millions and billions of years into something like you. But the idea is appealing about panspermia. But then if you look at this, then the life somehow had to originate on that planet or that
yes,
galaxy or somewhere.
Before we go there, because that's a whole nother.
That's
thing.
a big jump.
Why
don't we stick on those two?
Let's wait. Hold up. We can definitely go there. I
Sure.
want to go there.
We will.
But before we do you agree that we're extraterrestrial? Because you seem to believe that. You seem to believe in panspermia. I mean, as I understand,
Okay.
you've laid down the
I
evidence
believe.
for it?
No. Do I believe in the theory of panspermia that it's possible? Yes. Do I believe that this is not my home? That's a tough question. I appreciate the cognitive take on panspermia. That's one of the ideas how the life could originate. But do I believe that it was impossible for life to start at this planet? No, there are different ways for the life to start. So the idea of panspermia is great, and I see definitely a possibility of this. But there are many other ideas.
Well, to touch on what you said, is this your home or not? That's actually, I think,
Do you feel like home?
when
You go to the woods, when you swim in the ocean, when you kiss your first girl, does it feel home?
I think besides that, the idea itself is pretty interesting because it basically leads us to, oh my god, what's that? There's a theory, not a theory. Sorry, it's about a ship. You keep replacing the pieces. I forget.
No.
When is the ship the same ship? If you keep replacing the pieces.
I'm not familiar with it now.
Come on, it's like all right. There's this. Don't got Jamie.
Jamie, you're suck.
Doesn't work.
Anyway,
All right. Well, there's a. I don't want to be wrong. I don't even know what I called it. Can't do it. Don't got Jaime.
never mind. Listen, I want to touch a little bit. We're going to cover up several different subjects, and hopefully at the end of this podcast, we're going to bring it all together. So let's say we live here for a long time, and the idea of aliens, of gods, sharing knowledge with us goes back through pretty much through the whole civilization as far as we know it. There are tribe in Africa, and they believe, I forgot, that starts with a D, Digans, something like that. And they believe that their origin lies in an Orion constellation. And they have, we're talking the tribe as primitive as it gets. Arrow and bows and, they hunt for food. Obviously, no telescopes or anything like this. But they describe that their ancestors came from a planet within Orion constellation. And written on their walls, they show exactly what planet is it, and it orbits a particular star. And, their ancestors came from there. Only when we when we built the Hubble telescope, we were able to look that far into Orion constellation, and we look at that very specific star which they were describing, and using our technology, the way the star blinks, and the way the star vibrates. You cannot physically see the planet, but we know based on the behavior of the star that there is a planet surrounding that star. Because when the planets surround the star, the gravitational pull makes the star vibrate a little bit, wobble.
Okay.
So, but we needed a Hubble telescope to double check what they were talking about. There is absolutely no way in the world that it can be done with the human eye.
That is insane.
So, how is that tribe has that belief, which is accurate, without being visited by the fathers, the originators how did this, let's say it's a myth, it's a verbal tradition because they don't have a written language.
Maybe they unlocked the ancestral memories of the, what's it called, what are they called? They came here on the asteroids and stuff.
The Tardigrades.
Tardigrades, yeah. Tardigrades.
But no, they believed that they were gods. They were not little creatures that came. They were gods that came, and they came from there. There are incredible theories. This is something that everyone who listens to this right now will come back to extraterrestrial in a second. But Polynesian people believe that all of us are pieces of falling stars. So when you sit down somewhere in Polynesia and you see the star falling, and this is not a star, it's probably meteorite just hitting the atmosphere, they believe that the new person is being born at the time. But if you take that point away for a second and just shift it to the side, they do have a point. My apology. Everything you're made of, it's a carbon-based life. And in order for us to produce the components of our body, the star, they can only produce under certain conditions. And the conditions are, the star has to go to the process of which is called supernova. So it expands at the beginning, it gets larger and larger, that it contracts on itself, and it creates enough pressure temperature, everything to create products like carbon, like oxygen. Those compounds are made right before the star explodes. This is a real shit.
Okay.
And then all those compounds are free floating in the cosmos and then find their way around the object. That object start creating from the cloud of dust. The cloud of dust start condensing. You have a planet. But everything, planet or another star, but everything you made from was born in exploding stars. So when the Polynesians say we are a pieces of falling star, you are literally a piece of the star that went through the process of supernova just blow up. So imagine if any of those pieces have memory. You have a memory of being a star before you blow up. And now finally you get back together. And maybe from many different stars, who knows?
I mean, we still don't know where memories are, so if we do figure it out, I would be happy to take a look at some memories of the materials of some stars I'm made out of. But to end off the conversation of panspermia, just to be able to
transition into a different reality
forward. If panspermia is real, we have to be aliens then, right? We're aliens.
Aliens to this planet.
Well, that is what aliens are.
No, but if if this planet was never colonized before, and we are the first one here, we're not aliens.
No. Aliens, look.
You're extraterrestrial to who? To no life on this planet? If there was no life, how can you be extraterrestrial?
I don't think you're saying. I guess define extraterrestrial, right?
Okay, the only way you can be extraterrestrial if there is a terrestrial life on this planet.
No. Terrestrial is like the planet itself is here. We came to the planet.
Was there a life on this planet before?
We're not. Okay.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Do we have meteorites hitting this planet today?
Yes.
Of course, I have a pieces of meteorite in my jewelry.
Yeah.
That meteorite is extraterrestrial piece to our planet, right? Because it came from cosmos.
Yes.
But if you are looking at from the perspective of life, if there was no life on this planet before, how can you be extraterrestrial life when there was no life before? You are original life on this planet.
That is.
Or you must be born from the compounds on this planet, not to be considered extraterrestrial.
Right, but then are those tardigrades even their ancestors? Okay, let's say those tardigrades came, right?
It's one of the choices.
Right.
They arrived here on a comet or on something.
Yes. Let's say that's reality.
Okay.
Are they extraterrestrial to us? They
extraterrestrial to our planet, but you see, the way our planet was formed, it was how was it originally formed? From the cosmic dust, which was compacting, more meteorites hitting the planet, different objects combining, compressing. Finally, it compressed into the size of our planet. So, did they join the planet?
I like the stuff that was compressed on this planet. It's a very, very nice stuff.
I agree. But the idea is the first life on this planet. I understand what you're saying. It has to be, we can only call it terrestrial if it was born from the soup of energy and compounds on this planet with no introduction from the cosmos as a living organism.
Exactly.
So the question is, the start of life on this planet, was it extraterrestrial or was it terrestrial?
That's
what you're trying to...
Really good question. That's a really good format for the question.
Right, because if it started from whatever hell we had,
Yeah.
that it's called terrestrial. And if it was brought from somewhere else and started this incredible process of life, what we know as we know it, then it will be a Panspermia theory.
Exactly, but there also could be a number of extraterrestrial organisms that made up what we are, that, our ancestors.
What about they did not make what we are? They found us. Okay, I'll give you an example.
They did not find us.
Okay, no, hold it. Okay, so imagine there is another civilization, right?
Okay.
Which developed, let's say, 1 million years ahead of us, which is easy. The dinosaurs ran for, 400 million years. So somewhere else it started 1 million years before us. Just by looking how much we developed in 20th and 21st century, if you give that thing a million years without wars, without destruction, just development of civilization, it can go insane shapes, form, the ways of traveling through universe, and they, for example, they developed before us, right? And as the ancient records, there are shows that's called Ancient Aliens, and there are records that can indicate that there is a possibility that we were visited before through the pyramids. Then in India they have description of this flying objects with a highly recorded description of them. So let's imagine we were visited before at very primal stages of our development.
Yeah.
So just like you would go to Congo and visit gorillas, you come in as like, wow, they make primitive tools and stuff. Maybe we're going to study that. We'll come back 10, 15, 20 years. 100 years from now. And they left our planet alone just to let the process run. But you are conquering the space. For example, in our Milky Way galaxy, let's imagine we have a civilization which is very highly developed, or maybe multiple civilizations, which divided Milky Galaxy into the sectors.
Okay.
Which, like, we divided...
Really going Star Wars on this.
No, yeah, no.
Let's go.
That's important. So, let's say there's a higher civilization, visit us before. This sector of the Milky Way galaxy belongs to this civilization. They control that sector. And they let us run for a while. They let us run. They visit every once in a while. They're like,
So you're saying we are just like that island?
Hold on, let me introduce this. So right now, and we're gonna compare aliens and micro worlds and the macro worlds. So on our planet today, with all our development, all the computers and the microphones and lights and stuff, there are cultures on this planet which pretty much untouched. For example, there is an island in the Indian Ocean, which that island belongs to India, and I forgot the name of the island. It was not Sentient, Sentinel. I think Sentinel, North Sentinel Islands. And
Jaime.
I wish we had our AI to help us out next time. And people who live on the island call Sentinels, something like this. And it's a tribe which doesn't want to have any outsiders. The moment that we fly our plane or we try to bring the boat to the island, they attack us. So nobody had an interview or step a foot on an island for a while. So India has it, and they claim it, it's their island, and they just left it alone. And whatever happens on the island, nobody cares because it's underdeveloped culture. Who cares?
Well, India took it under their protection. They actually.
It's a part of India
Right.
as a, like, if Earth would have been a part of somebody else's territory in a galactic world,
Yeah.
that island is a part of India on our small little world.
And India is like, nobody touched this. This is like.
No, it's
leave-
our
leave-
territory.
leave
Leave
them
us,
alone.
leave them alone. Right. Here's the problem. So we're gonna, let's say, in the 20th century, we develop nuclear weapons, right?
Yeah.
And those nuclear weapons, every time they detonate, they send very specific signature in a space. This
Okay.
is not like an earthquake or tsunami. So if anybody ever looks for the signature, they can say, whoa, 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 whoa. In that sector of my land, you know, in the corner of the Milky Way galaxy, they just built something that can destroy this little planet of mine. When was the last time we visited them? I don't know, 1600, whatever, a long time ago. It's like, how were they? They were stupid, they were cavemen, or they were Stone Age, or Iron Age, whatever hell it was. We let them run. And you are, as a president of this galactic sector, says, you know what, we need to send a team there. We need to send the team to check up on them. Because we just got the signature coming from this planet. And then this, you know, those people, those creatures can destroy my land. My land. I want to send a ship, check what the hell are they doing. Same story with India and this island. Nobody gives a damn who lives on that island. You know, Papua New Guinea or whatever, Aborigines, local people, who cares? They shoot with arrows. But if tomorrow our seismic station recognize that there is a signature of atomic bomb coming from that island, India will be the first one to say, you know what? Let me send the ship with my troops just to double check if the shit is cool there. Because my equipment shows something's not cool.
Yeah, I need this planet.
I
have
need this
plans.
planet. It's my land.
Yeah.
I don't want him to destroy my land.
No, I'm very much for this idea. I like this idea.
No
a
joke.
lot.
So, ever since we developed nuclear arsenal, we detonate the first nuclear bomb, and we have written records on our planet going at least several thousand years back. But the occurrences of what they call extraterrestrial presence, aliens are visiting us, really start spiking up after 40s, late 30s, 40s, or whenever we detonate the first bomb. So I can see it from the example that I would assume on our planet. If the shit like this would happen on that island, I would send my troops there tomorrow. If somebody controls this sector of the Milky Way, and in our sector there's not that many planets who are capable of doing that signal of making an atomic bomb, I will send my little scientist team, National Geographic, whatever hell they have up there, to double check if things are cool here. Exactly what we would do for that little island in the Indian Ocean. And this comparison of micro and macro world, everybody can understand, because this is what we would do. And if there is a higher
Yeah,
consciousness
all of
that
a sudden,
arise,
if we catch some wave signals, some phone call signals coming from that island, we're gonna go check it out.
wouldn't you? It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I have a Fios, I have an Optimum, I have this, and this is like Oompa Yoompa. That they shouldn't have no cell phones. We left them for 60 years, and they developed atomic bomb, or developed the cell phone in 60 years. I would want to go and double check on my territory.
Yeah.
And looking from the same perspective on a larger scale, our rapid development in 20th and 21st century will bring attention to the species as to the higher conscious species, higher developed species, for one reason only. I mean, not for many reasons, but one of them, we can destroy the property that they own, and they don't want this property to be destroyed. This property is shared. We are only one of the species on this planet. There are hundreds of thousands of species that culture maybe want to protect, and our species can destroy not just all the other species.
We had this symbiosis going on this planet,
and this fucker just breaks the whole symbiosis.
Because we're quite invasive, you know. Like, we talk about other creatures.
We take the resources from the area, destroy the area, moves to another one. No other species on our planet does it.
We talk about like this type of snail being invasive to this environment or whatever. We're the most invasive animal, though.
All those snails still live in symbiosis. Everything on this planet except for us.
No, I forgot. There's like this one snail that like invades other snails and it completely kills off like the complete.
But it kills a snail, but it has a predator that will eat that snail. So there is a balance
somewhat
between a food chain.
Yeah.
If there wouldn't be a balance, there would be only a snail scrolling this planet.
Yeah. If we and every other species on this planet is basically an evolved version, a stemming off of those tardigrades,
or something similar to it,
then that means that is the only original kind of DNA that originated on this planet.
It's one of the visions. Yeah, okay.
And that means that
original sequence of information that evolved over millions of years or whatever. Hundreds.
Yeah, and each species almost like specced into their own abilities throughout that
based
time.
on the condition on our planet.
Exactly, which led to all the variation of species on this earth. But the original, central DNA was from those original tardigrades.
Okay.
So, going off of that means that most likely, unless they're all the same that are floating out there.
All the same? What do you mean all the same? Who all the same?
There's two pathways there.
Okay.
Either all the tardigrades floating out there, or all
in the space.
In the space.
If there are.
Well, I don't think the only ones that came here is the only ones.
We don't even know if they came here. This is the speculation.
Okay, but we're going off of.
Let's assume that this is how the life started.
Let's say, for the sake of things, that's how it is.
Or whatever seeded our life. Let's call it tardigrades, because it could be something else, but we need to give it some kind of a name.
Yeah. The original species that, kind of, the extraterrestrial species that landed on this planet. There has to be more of them, right? Floating out there. It can't be just like that. We're so freaking lucky that we have this planet that is so perfect, and so that this asteroid with the only living.
Bro, maybe all the asteroids with all the other species missed our planet. Maybe this is the only one that's landed.
But all those other ones, there's either two. As I keep saying, there's either two pathways of it. Either they're all the same, and the DNA across all the asteroids with these centigrade.
There was only one species that travel on asteroid.
Or they're different, which means that...
And they hit different environments as well.
Exactly. Which means that we, as we know it, are only familiar with the DNA that, we found. And
of our common ancestor.
Exactly. And if it's all a common ancestor, then we are only familiar with one set of DNA. And there could be many, many, many sets of DNAs out there, or, sorts of DNAs. I don't know even what to call it at that point. But that would mean that, for example, senses that we have, for example, vision in colors. There's, for example, some animals that have night vision, and we've been able to recreate that with technology. Most of our technology is just copying nature.
Absolutely.
So that means that there could be, for example, aliens that are just invisible to us, invisible to our senses, to our vision.
Right, because you only see a very specific spectrum of light. You start with visible deep red, and you go to whatever the other spectrum of visible light, which we as a humans can see.
But besides the visible spectrum to us, we've also been able to recreate like night vision with technology, and been able to kind of see as, you know, dogs or like, you know, any type of animal that has night vision.
Actually, as you're talking about this, there's a really cool development in U.S. military. They upgraded several years ago, I don't know how many years ago, the radar systems. And the moment that they upgraded it to see in a different spectrum, they start noticing tremendous amount of extraterrestrial activity.
It was red. They used red.
It was some kind of upgrade for the...
I'll tell you exactly what it was. When night vision goggles just hit and the military just started using them, they used red night vision goggles. And every single soldier that used those night vision goggles reported seeing some kind of demon-like creatures. Like, they would look somewhere and they would literally, like, a guy on a helicopter started shooting, and the pilot is like, "What are you shooting at?" And he's shooting at nothing, but in the goggles he sees
an image of something.
Something like fly. I don't know. But ever since then, they only used green night vision everywhere.
Interesting. I never knew about that.
The idea, what I'm talking about, is basically that we only have the senses we have. And not only that, the technology that we've created only has the senses that we've been able to copy from other species that we've seen out in the wild.
Right.
If there are other sets of DNAs, there could be completely separate types of sensory types information, or any types of what is the word I'm looking for? It's like there could be completely different types of building blocks for this living organism that we would not be able to we would not just be familiar with it. You
would not be able to record it with your sensory system that you have.
Exactly.
It's like your radio only works on the spectrum, and there are songs that are synced in a different spectrum of radio waves, which you would never be able to hear because your radio only works in such a small spectrum. Exactly. Like our visual senses or hearing goes from 10 decibels to 100 decibels. But dogs can hear it. You know, cats can hear it because their spectrum is wider. But for you, they can be walking between us.
Exactly.
And you would never know they exist.
There could be another species of tardigrades. Sorry.
Right.
That landed on this earth that we just haven't been able to.
Also, they develop parallel to us in
Maybe
completely different.
It could be. I don't know. That's another theory. That
Bigfoot.
They could develop here, and we just do not see them because we are just a certain type of DNA which is just not able to comprehend another type, and they probably wouldn't be able to. Maybe they would.
Yeah, but you know, there is also a crazy scenario, right? So as far as we know about our planet, all life originated from the ocean, as we agree upon. So it started at the ocean, and then it progressed into, you know, on land, and different bacteria start producing oxygen as a byproduct of their metabolism. It was toxic. Whoever couldn't compete with that die out. But the craziest scenario that I see on our planet for us, we only know, we're trying to explore the space. We're trying to find new life on Mars, on Moon, whatever. And we only have discovered 10 or 15% of our oceans. And oceans is where the life originated from. So, and the life in the ocean, especially if you go deeper in, is very stable. There is no radical change in carbon dioxide, the temperatures is very, very stable life. So why do we spend millions and billions of dollars of trying to find the life somewhere else where we have ocean covers what? Probably 60 to 70% of our planet, and we only discovered 10% of it. So even on our planet, there could be a species, alien species, unknown to us.
I see where you're coming from, and I agree, but I don't agree with that.
What do you mean?
I agree with you that it's kind of stupid for us to ignore oceans and just be like looking up the whole time. But I also think that's a way of saying, it's kind of like there's cavemen sitting in a cave, and there's this one guy that's like looking at the other caveman. It's like, no, we cannot leave the cave before we solve the issues in the cave. But
right.
Like,
no, I understand what you're saying.
It's like, well, dude, what if like?
But we should invest a little bit more into.
What if outside the cave will solve the stuff inside the cave? Like maybe stuff that we find out there will solve what we find down there.
It's cheaper to dig our own backyard.
It is, but why can't we do both?
We can if we will stop supporting a lot of wars that's going on and drop this money a little bit into the research.
I'd love to.
Yeah, no, but the problem is the war generate money. Finding new species in a Mariana Trench, how much money are you going to get from that?
There's not a single country that has invested into actually scanning world's oceans. There's like
there are no. There's scans of topography scans,
right?
Like,
but they're all like linear, just like kind of. If you look at Google Maps, it's actually pretty interesting. In Google Maps, it's very visible. You will see the fake, like the Google Maps make kind of like a seafloor, and then you'll see lines on the seafloor, and they're very precise. You could, like when you zoom in, you could see the actual typography and it's just like very few lines, very like.
So topography of the ocean floor was done.
Well, it's a very small percentage. I mean, it's little boats, once in a while, just like going. It's for science expeditions, just like one little line over here, one little line over here, And this is everything. The rest is just unexplored.
I want to bring it back.
Yeah.
To.
I know you.
To an alien thing. So, I was fascinated with aliens, not necessarily aliens, but I was always fascinated with the possibility of there are different life forms which are not from this planet. And I remember when I was a little child back in Russia, a long time ago, I was going to the Young Pioneer Camp, which was really outside of the city. It's outside of the village. It was a summer camp for the kids when the parents will send their kids. And I was probably about 8-9 years old. So when every kid goes to sleep, we would, how can you sleep in a summer camp when the parents are not around? You want to do crazy thing at night.
Yeah.
And we would just sit on the roof of our little building. And we were probably about, I don't know, maybe 300 yards from the big mountain. And there was nobody living around us. There was no lights, no villages. It was just a little camp in the middle of the, wilderness. And I remember when we were sitting there and, just looking at the mountains, mesmerizing the stars and stuff. We saw lights which were floating around the mountain in a pattern which at that time, and we're talking about late 70s, early 80s, it was like a little, not a flickering light, like a little ball of light which would rise up the mountain, and it would circle it, and it would just fly in unusual patterns, because at that time in Russia and where we were living, the only flying objects at night will be planes which will fly way higher than the mountains because of the clearance, or the helicopters, which could fly that low. But there was there was obviously no drones. No, it was not a bunch of lights. It was like a single light, like a little white ball of light that will rise up against the Black Mountain, and it was all at night. So it was really, really brightly visible.
Was it precise in its movement, or was it kind of like a helicopter?
It would no.
Or like kind of
the reason why we figured out it cannot be a helicopter, it's because the angle of the movement that it made would not be possible by the helicopter. You know, like a straight angle turn.
Almost like a pre-programmed.
The flying objects at that time, when they need to take the corner turn, it's a wide turn for helicopters. You know, it needs to take a particular path. It's a smooth, kind of a circular path.
Yeah, makes sense.
But this object was flying in kind of a straight angles or sharp angles, which no object at the time could fly. And we would sit on the roof and we would chat about it. Yeah, I still remember as a kid. But who do you know, who are you gonna?
One time?
We saw it one time. We were sitting on the roof. There was nothing else to do. It was three of us, young kids, and we were like, "What?" You know, first we thought maybe it could be a little firefly, the bug.
Yeah.
But then we were like, it cannot be the bug because we can see the trees in front of it.
Okay,
so how big the bug has to be?
It can't be like a false perspective thing.
No, right. Like it flies close to you, but you believe no, because we see other objects in front of it, which were large. Like we could identify it as a tree.
So it took a right angle?
Yeah, it like would raise up to the half of the mountain, and then will take a little swing to right and left, and then it would circle the mountain, and then it didn't fly out to the cosmos or something. It just, that light itself just stopped emitting light, like somebody turned off the bulb. You know what I'm talking about? Like you have a bulb that's going up and down, and at some point somebody just shut it down. It's just like,
jeez.
Yeah, we were very little. And
crazy.
As I was talking, you know, I was sharing this story with a close friend of mine. He's an optometrist, one of my best friend. You know, sometimes we chat about aliens and possibilities of, you know, galactic travel and bending space and all this stuff. And this was in early 2000, probably 2003, 4.
That you're talking with him?
About this particular subject.
Okay, yeah.
And he comes back to me, he's like, listen, I just had a crazy conversation with one of my patients. And I'm like, what is it about? He's like, okay, the guy is like in early 90s, and he is the ex-KGB from Russia. And I'm like, what is it about? He's like, it's about aliens. I'm like, what are you talking about? So a friend of mine, he's an optometrist. So when he evaluates patients' eyes, they have normally a conversation, some kind of a conversation going. So he was asking the guys, like, listen, where are you from? What were you doing before? You know, like a normal, friendly conversation. And the guy said, listen, I was a really high-rank KGB, not agent, how would you call? He worked for KGB. And he's like, how high were you? He's like, okay, all the southern part of Russia. So we're talking Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, all the southern republics, which were taken by Russia, you know, and became a part of the big USSR. So he's like, my work was to collect the most valuable information from those several republics and deliver it directly to a Kremlin.
Okay.
Whatever was happening there, from the military standpoint, from interaction between people, most important thing, he was the one who would collect the information from a lower ranking officers and bring this information back to Kremlin. He was in charge of that region.
Okay.
In Russia, when you in that type of position, you have a clearance, particular clearance level. And if you have that clearance level, after you finish working for the agency, there is a 25-year period where you cannot leave the country until your clearance ends.
Got it.
Once the 25 years goes by, you can immigrate to different places in the world. Obviously, the KGB is not going to be very proud of you, but for the first 25 years, nobody will allow you to leave the country because of information that you knew. So his son moved to United States, and he betrayed Russia back in the days, probably in late 70s. And he always wanted to reunite with him. So he retired early when he was like 60 or something like this. And he had to wait for 25 years for the clearance to kind of go away. And then he moved here. So my buddy Oleg is asking him, is like, so you knew everything was going on in the region? He's like, everything. He's like, and he asked him, it was like, let me ask you one question. Is there are aliens real? Everything what's going on in the region. And the guy looked at him and he laughed and he's like, the question is not if aliens are real or not real. Every developed country in the world has been in contact with them for a prolonged period of time. We're talking going back before 30s. 20th century. Listen to this. This is a crazy story. And he's like, we've been in contact with them, and United States, France, Italy, developed countries, the ones that have equipment and capable of doing it. He's like, my question is, as the guy said, is which country would be the first to announce that yes, we've been dealing with this forever. To admit it, yeah. Jeez. It's like the question is not if it exists or not. So my buddy goes further. He's like, have you seen one of them? And the guy goes, is like, one of them? I've seen many. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, we're talking about the crash retrieval sites. We're talking about biological. We're talking a bunch of different stuff.
Different species?
Hold, I'm going there. I every time I think of this conversation, I wish the camera can pick it up. I have like you can see it. I have like a crazy goosebumps going.
Jeez.
So the guy, all it goes is like, are there different species? He's like, yes, at least 3 that have been personally on dissections. In Russia, when there is a crash retrieval or whatever, and there is a biological specimen collected, and the scientists have to do dissection to record whatever they were finding, the KGB member must be present at the room during dissection. It's a mandatory protocol. It's not like the scientist will report to KGB. The member of KGB will be in an operational room, all dressed up, watching what all those scientists do, and doing his own reports, and then he will get reports back from the scientist. So all he goes is like, how many you seen? He's like, I've seen 3. There's a gray ones, there's a long ones in green, and there's some other one. I forgot what he was talking about. And he's like, so
lizard
we talking? No, not lizard. I would remember lizard. No, but he said they are different, and they're not from the same place. They are from different origins that somehow end up here. And he's like, do we have crafts? He's like, absolutely. We have multiple crafts. And
I actually test drove one of them.
No. Yeah, but, he has to, obviously, if there's a craft, he has to visit it with the other members of KGB and then a scientist. And he's like, how do they look? Like, what's up? He's like, I was inside one of them, and he's like, it's very bizarre. There are no signs. There are spaces where we believe the the creatures that controls the spaceship would sit, or they will be their position, but there are absolutely no signs. It looks like a white plastic, all inside. And
so they definitely went AR.
VR. No, it's like it seems like the ship has to be controlled telepathically because there are no manual buttons. There's nothing to press.
I'm telling you, we're getting there. Vision Pro
with
just
with
Vision-
how do you call it? The Neuralink.
Neuro-
It's like this.
Neuralink got embedded into the first person's brain. Like, have you heard about it?
I don't want to switch to Neuralink. Let me finish up the story.
But I'm telling you, we're getting to these types of ships. Like, look at it. Apple Vision Pro, Meta Quest. We're going to try both of them after the podcast. Actually, guys, stay tuned for that. That's going to be right after this podcast.
Yes, we're going to try it immediately after finishing this.
So you guys should check that video out. It should drop right after the podcast.
Go.
We're getting to these types of ships.
We're getting very close to it.
There's going to be nothing besides these screens and virtual elements.
But even in what you were just talking about, the goggles, you can control your computer without physically touching it. You know, you just have this thing on your head.
Why do I have a monitor? Why don't I just...
You don't even need the monitor.
Remove it.
They were trying to figure out what's the propulsion system. How does the shit fly? And he said a very unique thing, which he couldn't explain it. And obviously he was 25. He was probably about 5 years in the country. So we're talking about 30 years back when he left USSR at that time. Yeah. So all I was asking is like, so what's the means of propulsion? Like, how were they flying? What was the control of the ship? He's like, we don't know. But the weird thing was, like, the ship looks relatively small from the outside. Mm-hmm. But when you enter through the opening, the door, it looks much larger inside, like you're in a different space.
Whoa.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's like whatever. It's like maybe 10 feet across. But the moment that you walk inside, it's like 50 feet across inside.
There's a couple of movies with those types of...
And he said we had a bunch of scientists working on it and they couldn't figure out because it all feels like literally like just a white plastic all inside. But there was an object like which could be moved on the periphery of the ship. Now inside, you know, he was reporting on this 30 years earlier. And they said, we believed at the time that one of the idea was that it creates a black hole in front of the ship.
Okay.
And this black hole is controlled by gravitational field of the ship. And the way they figure out where they flow, they move the black hole around the ship. And you constantly in a process of falling into the black hole. Jeez. But you can never fall in because the magnetic field keeps the black hole particular distance. So it drags the ship into the falling, but it never falls in.
That's definitely how...
And that's how you can change the angles. You just change the position of the black hole around the ship.
Okay, so it's basically, here's the ship. The black hole
is right in front. You're constantly falling in.
Wherever you move the black hole, the ship is just...
The ship goes in that direction.
That's definitely how Santa's sled works.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Santa Claus.
Oh, Santa's Claus.
Santa's sled.
No, but the guy gave this idea when he was 30 years off being present at military and the KGB.
Insane. That's the sci-fi tropes that are coming.
And Oleg told me, and we were tripping on it. I'm like, listen, when is he coming back? He's like, he's gonna come back for the next eye exam in like 6 months. I'm like, you have to write a list of questions because there's nobody. We never had this conversation ever again. Probably the guy never came back. He was over 90 when he came in for that particular eye exam. I don't know how long he lived, but he said that he was on multiple dissections of the biological. Maybe because especially when it was biological, they had to call in the higher member of KGB, not just the people on the ground, to make sure, because this information had a higher, high degree of, how do you call it? The
intelligence security?
Intelligence security. So the higher ranking KGB officer. And he was like, I wasn't working for just one republic. It was like 4 or 5 republics that he was overlooking.
Or clearance level.
Clearance level. Yeah. And once this information gets collected, he delivers it back to Kremlin and gives the report to the main KGB office. And even when I was a kid, I had in my town, whatever, Lvov and Chernovitz, I knew a couple of people who were dispatchers, how do you call it? Traffic controllers. And even back then, we had a conversation with them. I'm like, listen, is everything cool? It's like, this is bizarre. We see, even with our radars at the time, we were seeing objects which would not correspond to the normal planes that are supposed to enter the area, fly particular altitude, and we were trying to communicate with them. It's like, whoever's in this region, please respond. So no responses back or anything. But because they were not interfering with the normal flight of the plane, at some point, the traffic controller said, you know what? Fuck them. They're not bumping in our plane. They're not into particular landing zone and stuff. Who are we gonna report to? How are we gonna? We cannot communicate to them. We see them appearing and disappearing, and everybody who were talking about it are fired. Nobody wanted to get fired because it's a well-paid position. So at some point, it was like a mutual agreement. As long as it doesn't cause damage or interference with the landing and taking off the planes, we're just gonna ignore the shit. But they see it often through the radars.
Part, that we're just going on our daily lives, ignoring aliens that are we're looking for aliens out there, but they're here, and we're just walking around.
But even in U.S. military, when they were talking to the pilots who had on their radars, they saw it. They're like, listen, they would talk to another pilots, but they would never report it to the higher commanding officer. It's like, they start thinking, I spent too much time on the field. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I need psychological evaluation. This thing never interfered with my plane. Why would I even bother? But they would talk between the pilots. It's like, do you see this shit? It's like, I see it all the time. Should we report it to our higher commanding officer?
No, we're all crazy.
It's like, let's just do our daily missions. This thing flies separately outside of, it doesn't interfere our airspace. Let's just keep it between us. But there's a lot of people who went through this, especially in the recent years since military aviation upgraded their radars. They're much more visible, and I don't know why we're looking for life, extraterrestrial life, so far out there, because there are so many leads. I don't want to say evidence, because I don't want to sound dumb, but there are so many leads that lead us to believe that if it's not aliens, at least there's a different level of consciousness that shares the space with us.
Well, I mean, define aliens, right? So we keep running into these terms that I think
But they alien to us. That's why we call them aliens.
Exactly.
But first time I saw an octopus, it was an alien. It was alien to me. And it actually looks like an alien and processes the thing like an alien.
Octopuses is the most alien creature on this planet.
One of, yes, for sure.
I believe it actually originated from speaking of the idea, going back to
Panspermia.
Panspermia, and the idea I followed up with when we just came back from the break. Octopuses, I believe, actually did originate from a completely different type of tardigrades than all the other.
I don't even know if it originated from tardigrades, because the archaeological record shows that we have species similar to it.
No.
But the level of cognition.
There are species similar to octopuses, but all those species are from. They inspected octopus DNA and found zero similarity to any other existing animal or species on this planet.
I didn't know about that. Interesting. I know it's highly...
the species on this planet have certain similarities to another species, to another... Like, they're all...
Through the DNA.
Through the DNA. There's, like, you will see, like...
The sequencing will be...
We're related to, like, what is it? Like...
Drosophila, the fruit fly.
And potatoes, literally. Like,
yes.
It's... But octopuses, completely different from everything else. And guess what? They can camouflage, become invisible. They certain things about them are just so alien.
There are alien living inside you, and I'll give you a medical proof.
Okay.
Okay, we consist of cells.
Yeah.
Every cell that we have inside of the cell imagine every cell is a little city.
Okay.
That it has the city hall.
Mitochondria. Is the power of the cell.
Yes. So mitochondria, just for those who are not familiar with it, there is a little factory in our cell.
There's anyone in the United States that went to public school that is not familiar with the mitochondria.
But what it does, it produces ATP, adenosine triphosphate. There's a particular molecule that actually, in a simple words, will give you energy. We would not be able to survive without mitochondria.
Yeah.
Every energy of the cell that it needs to produce proteins for the city to exist. Mm-hmm. The nuclear factory is a mitochondria. Mitochondria has completely different DNA from you. Totally nothing the same. Nothing. Not a single sequence.
Really?
Nothing. So original ideas about mitochondria were when we were single cellular organisms and one organism would just engulf the other one and dissolve. At some point we figured out when we eat the mitochondria we don't really have to dissolve it. It gives us energy. Okay. So we choose the symbiosis with this organism. That's one of the ideas.
Okay.
But the crazy idea is that our DNA are so radically different. There's no similarities. How can we exist in one cell? Two completely different species, if you can call it. If we will be talking about single cellular species, your DNA and the mitochondria are incompatible. But we live in symbiosis.
Let me ask Jaime, because after the break...
Jamie's on?
During the break, I got Jaime
working, wake up?
So I think so.
Jaime woke up. All right, Jaime.
Let's check it out. Wait, actually...
What's the similarities between mitochondrial DNA and human DNA?
Hit the button. Ask him the question.
All right. Jaime, we're going to go with this again. Do you know if mitochondrial DNA in humans are different from our cellular DNA?
Absolutely, Boris. Mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, and the DNA found in the nucleus of a cell, typically referred to as nuclear DNA, possess unique characteristics. Nuclear DNA, present within the nucleus of our cells, comprises the lion's share of our genetic blueprint and is inherited from both parents. This gene mix regulates everything from appearance to organ functions. Mitochondrial DNA, small relative to nuclear DNA, is located in the mitochondria, where it plays a pivotal role in energy production. Fascinatingly, mtDNA is passed exclusively from mother to child, which contrasts the blended inheritance of nuclear DNA. These two types of DNA work harmoniously, ensuring our cellular functions' reliability and efficiency. Quite the marvel, don't you think?
I do.
Similar to what you were talking about with Boris, but a little bit more on the topic of octopuses. I believe I heard something about that octopuses actually do not share a single any DNA that is found on any other species on this planet. So basically, that octopuses are a completely different species, almost alien to this planet, to us, right? Is that true? Where could have I heard that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I see where you're coming from, Max. The octopus indeed has a fascinating genetic makeup that has puzzled scientists. Octopuses share a large part of their DNA with other life forms on Earth, as all life has common ancestry. However, they have a significantly larger number of genes than most creatures, partially due to the processes called jumping genes, or transposons, which can rearrange themselves in the genome. These transposons might influence the octopus's complex nervous system and its ability to alter its RNA, leading to a variety of proteins from the same gene. Such characteristics give the octopus its unique adaptive coloration, learning, and problem-solving abilities. However, it's crucial to clarify that the idea of octopuses being almost alien is metaphorical and refers to how distinct and advanced these cephalopods are compared to other invertebrates, not that they have extraterrestrial origin. But indeed, the world of octopuses opens up a realm of intrigue for biologists and theorists alike.
I see. Okay, then that was my mistake.
I worry about Jaime. He knows a lot. But the idea is really cool. And the same idea coming back, I really want to come back to tardigrades. The adaptations that they have it would be useless in terrestrial environment. I'll give you an example. Why would you need an adaptation to survive in negative 273 degree when temperature on this planet will never go that low? Why will you have proteins? You can create proteins that can protect you from radiation that you can only experience if you in open cosmos. If you outside of any planet in cosmos. Why would you have these genes being replicated generations after generation? Why would you have it? It's useless for this planet.
There's no reason. The only reason there could be is for it to have come from somewhere. It has to,
it has to go somewhere.
For it to come somewhere or go somewhere, it has to be able to be in that environment.
So the tardigrades keep, as they go to their replication, they keep those genes for over 600 million years.
See, I think those genes are kind of just baked in there.
But a lot of times we lose genes that we don't use.
That's true.
Actually, not losing them. They're not being read. We're still keeping them.
Yeah, are they being...
Yeah, it's called introns. They're a part of DNA that we currently not...
That's a fascinating topic that we're not going to get into.
Not going to get into today. But if we do share a common ancestor, that you probably should have the same genes that can protect you if they're active from cosmic radiation, from being able to swim in the boiling water, staying without food for weeks on end, if they are activated.
Let's ask Jaime quickly, what are the tardigrades? Is there a name for them that are able to... Is there a specific name?
For the species?
Yeah.
No, it's like over... I used to do some research. Not research, I was curious about them. There are about 900 different species of tardigrades on this planet. 900 different ones.
And they're all able to survive?
The ones that are in freshwater tardigrades, they can survive harsher conditions.
I see.
The ones in the saltwater, less harsh. But all of them carry ridiculous survival.
Okay. What? I'm interested. Let's see.
You gonna ask Jaime?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Jaime. One sec.
Max, glad to have you back. We were elaborating on the intrigue behind octopus's DNA. How about we venture further into the mysteries of nature, or do you have something else in mind? Either way, it's going to be a captivating discussion.
We went a little bit off topic already to another topic, something we were talking about earlier in the podcast, tardigrades. What are the harshest conditions that tardigrades can survive?
Without a doubt, tardigrades are marvels of resilience. These microscopic creatures, affectionately known as water bears, have stunned scientists with their ability to endure extreme environments. Tardigrades can tolerate temperatures as low as -72 degrees, nearly absolute zero, and as high as 150 degrees Celsius. Radiation levels well above what would be lethal for other animals seem inconsequential to them. They can also endure pressure 6 times greater than the deepest ocean trenches and can survive in the vacuum of space. Most impressively, tardigrades can enter a ton state, virtually shutting down their metabolic processes and reduce to 0.01% of their normal activity. This state enables them to withstand periods of intense dehydration or lack of oxygen for up to decades, only to rehydrate, revive, and reproduce once conditions improve. The resilience of tardigrades indeed beggars belief.
Wasn't there a space mission that has found tardigrades on an asteroid or a comet or something like that happened quite a while ago, maybe 1980s, 1970s, something like that? Hasn't that happened before?
While it's true that the resilience of tardigrades has sparked discussions about their potential ability to endure space travel, to the best of my knowledge, there's no record of a space mission finding tardigrades on any celestial body. However, tardigrades have been deliberately brought to space for experiments. For instance, the tiny creatures were exposed to the vacuum and radiation of space in an experiment by the European Space Agency on the Photon M3 mission in 2007, where they notably survived, and some even went on to lay eggs that hatched successfully. The concept of finding tardigrades on celestial bodies often comes wrapped in discussions around the hypothetical concept of panspermia, the idea that life on Earth might have been seeded from elsewhere in the cosmos. However, this remains a theory and a field of ongoing study.
Right, and in that theory, wasn't there something also about them becoming more adapted to the environment, like the what's it called? After they were brought back from space, they kind of evolved, so their offspring was more, I believe, either something happened where they were more accustomed to space, basically, after they went to space. Is that correct?
What I knew, what their experiment, I'm a little bit familiar with this particular experiment. So they brought them up in the orbit. They were keeping them there for a certain amount of time. Those creatures reproduced pretty quickly. But the uniqueness was, if you born in space versus you born, like, if you born in...
The experiment you're referring to indeed
talk.
involved observing the response of tardigrades to space. However, to the best of my understanding, the focus was primarily on establishing whether they could survive the hostile conditions of space, which they did impressively well, rather than observing any potential evolutionary adaptation in their offspring toward becoming more space tolerant. This experiment marked a significant milestone, demonstrating that certain organisms could endure the vacuum, radiation, and low temperatures in space. Still, as per current knowledge, we've not yet observed a notable long-term evolutionary adaptation towards increased space survivability in future tardigrade generations. Yet these tiny extremophiles continue to be compelling subjects in the study of life's potential beyond Earth.
All right. So what I know about the study, what was actually done on a ship, is they were mapping the mRNA sequences and DNA sequences of the tardigrades which were brought from Earth conditions to the space, and they were recording the sequences of mRNA.
Yeah.
And then some of those suckers were born out on the orbit. And what they did, they record the mRNA sequences of those. And the experiment was supposed to compare if those sequences are similar or not. Because normally the sequence, especially with the tardigrades, it repeats, like every single tardigrade in its niche, like there are 900 different ones. But if you take one of them, that one species, all of the subjects in that species will have identical DNA. So if the DNA will change on an orbit, or mRNA will change on orbit, they wanted to show the difference that for the species who were born in non-gravity environment, it affects the mRNA or not. And I only read the studies when they just brought them back.
Yeah.
And they were the descriptions, that's what they were looking for. But I'm not familiar with any follow-ups, nor did I personally follow it up. I have.
I see. Well, I think this is where we should cut it. I think this is a good
because we can go on with this for hours and hours, but I think we will focus on different part of alien life and aliens.
I think we'll touch upon it in episodes that are not going to be specific to aliens. I think
could be. Who knows?
I think we'll do more episodes just directly for aliens. We'll do all sorts of stuff, but yeah.
It was pleasure once again.
Great second episode.
Pleasure seeing you again.
Yeah.